Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I'm Anne Alvares, parent coach, school counselor, and mother of two. Do you sometimes struggle with your parenting role? Do you notice that sometimes you're repeating patterns that you learned in your own childhood? Maybe you are carrying childhood pain that has not been healed, and you notice that it is showing up in your parenting with your own children. Perhaps you yell or get frustrated easily. Maybe you are directing them or telling them what to do all the time, and you notice that your actions are affecting your relationship with your children. Well, parents, I totally understand this. I came from childhood pain and I learned how to be a relational parent with my children. And I can teach this to you as well. This podcast is all about learning how to heal the childhood pain that we are carrying so that we can foster healthy relationships with our kids. Join us every week for a new show, and we will dive into the healing and the fostering of healthy relationships with our children. Hello, parents. I am super excited today because we have a special guest. Her name is Emily Rose. She is a somatic coach who combines the structure of psychology and the embodied nature of somatics to help her clients deepen self awareness, improve emotional regulation, and enrich connection with work, relationships, and personal journey. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so
It's really nice to
excited to
be here.
talk today about body awareness. Okay, let's start with the first question. What
Mm.
is body awareness and how does this help us when we are aware?
To answer this, I'm going to go through a bit of the science of like what our body, the body connection that we have with our mind, and then how our awareness can really affect that. So, from the science point of view, from how our body's experiencing our life and supporting us in the way that we show up, is we have this really large cranial nerve from our brainstem to just underneath our rib cage. And this is called our vagus nerve. And it basically holds the information and kind of regulates our nervous system into the different states that we need throughout the day. So you might have heard, fight or flight or rest, and that's a lot of, what we're told as we grow up. But there's actually 5 states that our body can go into to help us perform and to show up in our lives. So that might be, for instance, in this podcast, I'm a bit nervous. It's my first podcast. So my body's in a bit of dysregulated sympathetic going, we need to give you extra energy, extra adrenaline because this is a new environment and you need to really show up. So my body's a bit, you have the physical sensations of the shakiness or a bit of the, really kind of, mobilization. But then you also can have a more confident version of that, which is a more regulated state, which is, oh, okay, I just have the energy that's appropriate for this conversation and my body feels relaxed in that and grounded in that. So you have these different versions of states that your nervous system gets into depending on what it thinks you need in that moment. And there's 5 that, if you're aware of them, there's an intricate 5 that you go through throughout the day. And this nerve is in constant communication with your mind. So, as much as it's your physiology, how you're feeling in your body, it's also your thoughts and your emotions because there's this constant communication pathway between this nerve and your brain. And what's interesting, what blew my mind when I first got into this stuff, was that 80% of that communication is actually coming from the body, from the vagus nerve to the brain, and then only 20% coming back down to the vagus nerve. So, there's so much experience and life lens in our world that comes from this body's understanding of what's happening in our environment and what we need to bring back into that environment. So it's this crazy level of connection, and it all
That,
comes from, oh, sorry, you're gonna say
yeah, that
something.
is so like incredible to me to that 80% of what's happening. It starts with our body. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't start with our head. It's actually starting with our body, right? Like
yeah,
that's where the communication's coming from.
yeah,
That's so
exactly.
incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with my clients, I'm imagining, I have them imagine, this kind of fire that's coming up through you, that's experiencing your life and that's feeding your thoughts and your emotions, that's getting you ready to kind of really interact with what's happening in your world. And in Western culture especially, we're kind of thought like, oh, you can control your thoughts, and you know, your thoughts are what creates your reality. And in some part, like, you know, that's a big thing because it creates feedback loops with the body, but we don't give the body that much attention. Actually, it's really feeding our experience.
That is
And the
so incredible.
concept, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I
I mean,
nerd out on it all the time.
you blew my mind today.
It's this
Because,
concept called neuroception, and it's
yeah.
basically this inner surveillance system that's in our body that uses three different modes of understanding our safety, and then that basically feeds what we need in that environment. So one layer is our worldview. So do we feel safe in our world? Are we watching a lot of the news and we're worried about where things are going? Or do we watch loads of things that make us feel like anyone can do anything and we live in a very, you know, happy and fulfilling environment? And then that also goes into our kind of second sphere, which is our immediate environment. So our relationships at home, our relationships with our peers at work or at school. And then our internal environment is the final layer of that neuroception, which is, you know, how am I doing physiologically? How am I doing, you know, in myself? And so to give myself as an example again in this podcast, is at the beginning I said about that mobilized like energy, because it was a new situation and coming in, there's new pressures, and my body and my physiology is going, you need loads of adrenaline for this. But as I'm talking to you, my body's going, oh, okay, I'm actually experiencing that this is a safe situation, and I can relax a little bit, and I can, oh, okay, my neuroception of this situation's changed. So your body's
That's so good.
constantly assessing and feeding your situation. It's absolutely incredible once you tap into it.
Wow. Wow. That's so
Yeah.
incredible. Okay. So how do you help people become more body aware?
So when we look at body awareness, some people connect to it in different ways. So for me, it was a real kind of nerdy experience of going to a dance actually, and realizing this wisdom that was coming up, these memories that were coming up, and then that led me to really research everything and do these guided experiences in my training. But with my clients, everyone has a different comfortability as to how they connect to their body awareness, whether that's
Mhm.
learning like I did and then going through guided experiences, or just having really slow connection to yourself. So the way that I work with people, for example, is we hold a really compassionate space together that's curious. And these are two pillars that are massive in body awareness. Is how can I go inward with my attention in a way where I'm just curious to see what I find in my sensations, in how I'm feeling, and just really work with that, instead of go, right, I need to be feeling like this in this situation, I need to be performing in this way. It's about really slowing down. That's how slowing down is such a big part of feeding your body awareness. So in my sessions, I'll use different somatic interventions that will help someone just really get more into their body sensations and find that clarity. Because the moment you slow down, like, oh, okay, I really have a fresh perspective of the felt sense of this situation. And then you're speaking from feeling instead of about your feelings, because that's something we do a lot, right? It's like over intellectualize what we're going through, overthink. But when you just go into your body a bit more, go into, okay, how does this state feel? What is this state telling me? Then you can really get a new wisdom with that. So that can happen with just a conversation with my coaching, or with different programs where you educate yourself. And then once you get into that connection, you experience this spaciousness. So where I mentioned before about your body has this idea of your sense of safety, and it's going to put you into a state that it thinks you need. Instead of being overruled by those states, you're involved in the conversation between that nerve and your brain, because you have that awareness, you have that attention to how you're feeling. And this
Hmm.
spaciousness kind of gives you an autonomy over your emotions, and it brings you back into that stillness, and that, oh, okay, I have a choice of whether I need this state, and I can kind of go into that feedback loop and go, I can be more relaxed than I feel right now, or I can have a connection with myself that's compassionate instead of resistant. And to me, that self-leadership, I say a lot to my clients that body awareness and self-leadership is basically synonymous, because you have that space to just really come from a grounded perspective, because you're understanding what's going on inside yourself, basically.
Right. So then when you're working with your clients, are you asking them to recognize what is
Mm.
happening in their body first, and then just like slow everything down, right? Because
Mm.
like you said, we overthink, our brain is like,
Mm.
survival, help me. And then, so then when we slow things down, then we can really be in touch with
Mm.
what's happening, like what are the sensations in our body, right?
Yeah. So a client might come into my session and they'll have something that they're really thinking about. It might be a work thing or a relationship thing, and they're wanting to find an answer, right? And that can a lot be in the mind, because you're like, oh, okay, what do I do about this thing? I need a strategy. I have thoughts about it. I have conflicting ideas. And what my job basically is to just support them in that, oh, okay, if I slow down and connect to myself and find the root feeling of this situation. It's like, oh, okay, the feeling here is sadness. Okay, where am I feeling that in my body? Okay, so this kind of curious looking for is letting your guards down, taking the pressure off of finding an answer, and just really connecting to what's true and what's clear. Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
I've got kind of sadness in my chest. Okay, what kind of sadness in my chest is there? Oh, okay, it's like a whirring kind of I need more. It's like, oh, okay, so if that had a voice, what would it say? Oh, I need more time with my partner. Oh, okay. So then you find this clarity from just going in layers of connecting to yourself and going beyond the thoughts and the content and really going into what is the felt sense of this situation. And we see it in
Wow.
our language, don't we? Like, oh, follow your heart, or like, what's your gut telling you? So it's
Yeah.
basically just having real intentional time to connect to that wisdom within ourselves so that we can find
Wow.
that clarity again.
That is so powerful. I don't know,
I love
like
it.
that just spoke to me because when we start to identify like how we're feeling about things, then we
Mm,
can start to get clear, like where are those feelings
yeah.
coming from? How, like, okay, so recognize that you feel this way, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And that's okay, like
Yeah.
no judgment. This is where I love this, like you leading people to self-compassion, right?
Mm,
Like it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel your feelings. There's no judgment on it, right?
yeah.
But also it's good to identify it because then you're like, um, okay, I'm feeling this sadness.
Mm,
Why am I feeling this sadness, right? Oh my
yeah.
gosh, it speaks to me.
It
This
honestly it's such a beautiful practice, and it can come in many different ways. So another way that I work with people is to provide more context. So as I mentioned earlier about the nervous system and these different states that we get into, sometimes if you're struggling to have that slowing down kind of culture immediately, through learning the different states that your body goes into, you can then start to recognize yourself more. And those whispers of your body start to become louder, and you can kind of recognize where you're at in your day. And, oh, okay, I'm noticing this kind of mobilized energy. What's that telling me? So you can do it in a more guided way. So I do a 3-month program, which is about nurturing your nervous system and empowering your life. And that's really looking at um, learning those inner landscapes within us, those states that we go into throughout the day, so that you get more attuned to the sensations. Because for some people, you have a somatic workshop with them, an open coaching session, they immediately can tap into that feeling and go, oh, okay, like these are different layers, and I'm compassionately being with it. But a lot of people are really conditioned to resist it and to be like, no, I don't feel like that. I need to carry on. I've got this, and this that I need to do, and I don't have the time to feel this way. And it keeps you in the headspace. Whereas if you take a bit more of a gentle approach and develop an understanding of what's going in your body, it allows you to find that pathway to better be able to connect to it.
Wow, wow, wow. That totally makes sense to me. Um, wow. Okay, so how does I know I'm my mind is blown right now.
I love it. I'm so
I just
passionate about it. So lovely
I just
sharing it.
love what you do because I it's similar, like I do a similar kind of work with my students as a school counselor.
Mm,
Where we're like identifying feelings, right? But
mm,
the body awareness to me is like so crucial because I think you're right. Like in society, we have been preconditioned to not express or
mm,
recognize our emotions. Like our emotions are secondary
yeah.
to what needs to get done, right? And I just like the idea of just slowing it all down,
Mm,
right? Getting in touch.
mm,
It's so much healthier, right? Than
mm,
just keep moving through and ignoring the sadness or the anger or whatever it is that you're feeling, right?
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so how does being body or how does being body aware help us as parents? Like what is the benefit?
Yeah, I love this question, because I think being body aware just helps us as humans. And I think such a big part of being human is how we connect with people and how we nurture each other. And if you come from that place of self-leadership and being grounded and compassionate towards yourself, just imagine the difference in your posture, how you feel to be around if someone lives with you. And when I spoke about the neuroception, that inner surveillance system that's telling us our senses of safety, you've got the outer environment, which is the world, but a big thing is the immediate environment. You're kind of
Yeah.
in a hub, which is your house. If your
Yeah.
parents are in a space where they're not being overruled by their emotions, they're not being overruled by their own senses of safety, you feel safer. So, for
Yeah.
example, if you've got a small child who's anxious and maybe they can't go upstairs on their own and they're freaking out about that, and if your own neuroception of that situation, because it's a mix of inner core beliefs and body states, right? So if you're thinking in your mind, oh my God, if my child grows up and they can't be independent, like how are they going to get a job? How are they going to do this? And you start to get overcome by that state because your body's going, this is like a really scary thing. Your child needs to sort this out. And this is intimidating.
Yeah.
Even if on the surface level you're going, it's fine, you're going to be fine, go up and try it. Your body is telling them in their environment with their own inner surveillance system, something's actually wrong, and that will feed their anxiety. So if you can come from a place where you're in that self-leadership, that body awareness, where you can go, I'm noticing I'm a bit nervous about this is my baby, I love them, they're nervous, they're scared, I don't want to push them too far, but I also want them to be more independent, but that's okay, and I'm safe,
Mm-hmm.
and my body
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to be out of whack. I can do this from a regulated and grounded space. They're going to
Right.
pick up on that, and they're going to feel like the situation is safe too. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Totally makes sense. Like, okay, so I tell this to parents all the time because I'm a mom and
Mm,
I know children, like, and I've had like so many conversations with teenagers. Um,
mm,
they can feel our energy.
yeah.
They can feel our feelings. They know, even if we don't
Mm,
tell them, they know something's not right with mom, something's not right with dad. They know
mm,
they're sad, they're mad, they're upset, right?
yeah, yeah.
Even if we try to hide it, they can still feel it. Like this is how
Mm,
connected our children are to us. Like they are so
mm,
connected. And we also have that same connection. We can feel when our child is sad, upset, worried, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
so this energy we have to be so aware of as parents, I believe,
Mm,
right? And so I totally get what you're saying about when we are overthinking or we're not regulated, uh,
mm.
then our children feel that. And it
Yeah,
doesn't help
totally.
them, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
it just makes the situation worse
yeah.
because
Because
they're like, mom can't handle my big feelings. Dad can't
yeah,
handle my big feelings.
yeah, yeah, and also like children, especially younger children, they're looking at their parents to see if the situation is safe. So as much as you might have the best intentions in the world, and that's why you care so much, you might be tired. I mean, parenthood is so intense,
Hmm.
but if that child say is a bit nervous to go upstairs, I keep using that example,
Yeah,
but
I like it.
if that child is nervous to go upstairs and they look at the face of their parent and the parents be like even without noticing, they're like, oh God, I'm right, it is a scary thing, I knew something was wrong. So it's about that kind of feedback loop and that trust, and if you can be compassionate with yourself, understand what your body's doing, that 80% feeding of the situation, if you can have an autonomous relationship with that where you have a bit more of grounded control, then you can feel, like you said, the energy, that they can feel a
Yeah.
safer, more open energy. And I think with older children it's more of a trust thing, the energy thing. So I
Yes.
was I was imagining when I was thinking of examples to talk about a teenager who's like wanting to start drinking or something, or is
Yeah.
making some maybe social decisions that the parents are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
If you're in a conversation with your kid and say, for example, they're like, I'm a bit older now, I want to start drinking, I want to start going to house parties, and you're in a place where you're like, oh my God, I don't want that to start happening, and you've got your own
No.
fears about it. Yeah. If you're in a conversation and you don't have that body awareness, and you're in that moment kind of overruled by your body going, this isn't safe, my kid's going to be in trouble now, I'm going to give you loads of adrenaline and stress to be able to handle the situation, and in
Yeah.
that conversation you're coming across tense, you're coming across
Yeah.
quite narrow-minded, quite like angsty, that teenager is going to look at your state and maybe go, well, I don't want to be like that, so why am I taking your advice on this? I feel relaxed about drinking and I feel better in this conversation in my body than you're feeling in yours, so I don't trust your perspective on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of feedback that I've had from teenagers is like, oh, I wouldn't want to live like my parents, so why am I taking their advice? And we all have different ways that we want to live, but I think if you can be in yourself and be very comfortable with your feelings, a teenager, anyone that you're talking to, will feel that as well, which just creates more open communication and more trusting environment to have a conversation, because they know that you're not missing anything in yourself. You
Yeah.
understand yourself. You're coming from a very grounded place, and they listen. It
Yeah.
makes and
And
they
then
do
when
listen.
like when you react that way with teens, then they don't
Mm.
feel safe to tell you things.
Yes, yes,
This is
exactly.
this is the problem, right? Is that
Mm.
when we come down and we're judgmental, or we're like, why are you thinking about that? Like, what is your problem?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you have that kind of attitude, then your teen will never share with you again,
Mm.
right? And that just kind of breaks relationship. So
Mm.
so I think it's so important. Okay, so like I like the idea of slowing things down, because
Mm.
when you slow things down and you become body aware, uh, then you're not going to blurt out, that's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in your head, right? And like I know this from experience because I've had these thoughts in my head, right? When my teenager is complaining,
Yeah.
and I'm like, stop complaining. But then I don't react that way. I like say, okay, stop,
Mm.
like slow it down,
Mm.
listen, just listen, don't react, right? And
Yeah.
then and then that awareness helps me to give better support,
Yeah.
right, to my child, because now I'm not reactive, I'm not judging.
Mm.
um I'm getting like I'm getting grounded so that I
Mm.
can give the support that my teenager needs,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And it becomes about supporting them instead of, like you mentioned earlier, that phrase of like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's your problem? It becomes then their way of going, I don't get you. I don't get this. Whereas if you
Yes.
can give that spacious, just, compassionate listening, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we're on the same team.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, like, we have, especially as parents, like, we just have fears. Like, as soon as
Mm.
we have a baby, it's all about fear.
Yeah.
How do I keep this little one alive?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like these are the thoughts that go through your head, right? As a parent, and the fears continue as they get older, and then as they get more and more independent, then our fears grow again, because now there's so many factors we have no control over, right? Because
Mm.
now they don't want us hanging at the park with them. They want to hang out with their friends at the mall, and you can't be there because it's not cool,
Yeah.
right? So then you're like, okay, now what is my role, right? Like, because I know,
Mm.
like, I have to let go. And so, yeah, it's just that, ooh, like, slow it down. It's gonna be okay. But we feel that reaction, that fear,
Mm.
or
Mm.
maybe it's pre-programming. Like maybe it comes from our own childhood experience where our parents were fearful, right? And
Yeah.
so then we grow up holding on to that
Yeah.
fear. It kind of stays in your body, right? Like that. And so then you have to work through it. You're like, okay, where is this coming from? Why am I so fearful? Why am I so scared?
Yeah.
Um, and then when you're like, okay, like we're gonna breathe, like just get
Mm.
into it. Just like, what is the feeling? I love that. I love how you explore that. Okay, what is the feeling? Where is it? Like, where are you feeling it? Um, so that you can process it. Like,
Yeah.
uh, I'm feeling scared right now because I don't know what's going to happen when my child goes to the mall with his friends, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
slowing it all down. And then I always say, like, it's okay to express with our teenagers
Mm.
um, our feelings and our fears, because like that
Yeah.
just brings that humanness, right? And also it allows our children to understand us better.
Yeah.
Um, Like I always say to my kids when I'm scared, I'm a little worried about you going on this trip by yourself.
Yeah.
Can you make sure that you answer your texts? You know,
Hmm.
because like I love you so much and I really don't want anything to happen. And I know I have to let you
Mm.
go, but mom feels scared,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think your own inner permission to feel those feelings that you're giving yourself by being okay with sharing them, just it relinquishes any resistance that maybe come from the child with that. So say you are not in that slowing down space, not in that compassionate space, and you're like, right, text me when you get there. Like you need to be on it. It just creates this barrier between you and the child. Whereas if you with your own relationship before you even speak to your child, go, it's okay, I'm feeling like this. I feel
Yes.
it. I'm getting to the root of this feeling. I'm really connecting to this feeling within myself in a compassionate way. Okay, cool. I've got the clarity. I'm now gonna give myself permission to say this.
Yeah.
And your body, like I said with the whole neuroception thing, your body is giving off this energy to the
Yeah.
child. It's okay. I'm nervous that you're going away. I'd
Yeah.
really like a message, but it's okay because you're
Yeah.
having that relationship with your own feelings.
Right. I like that so much. Like all emotions are good.
Yes.
They're, we're human and we can feel our
Mm.
emotions. So
Mm.
like I like that compassion part because I feel like a lot of times we feel um guilty
Mm.
or we feel like we shouldn't feel that way. Why do we feel that way? You know,
Yeah.
when we judge ourselves, right, for
Yeah.
feeling things. But when you slow it down, you can say, okay, I'm feeling this,
Mm.
and it's okay to
Hmm.
feel that because you love your child, so it's okay
Yeah.
to be scared, um,
Yeah.
and be compassionate with yourself about that. And but then process it. Just say, okay, where is it coming from? And like, should I be scared? Like, is this something I should be scared of? Or
Yeah.
is this something that I'm just holding on to because my parents were like that with me? Like,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And but yeah, feel your feelings. I guess that's the message, with all of us,
Mm.
men, women, children. Uh, yeah, it's okay to feel your feelings. In fact, it's healthy to feel your feelings, right?
I, I honestly think it's so necessary to be able to shift the feeling as well. So say your neuroception's telling you this isn't safe because of maybe conditioning you had with your parents. If you go, I'm not listening to that instinct, whether it's right or wrong. I'm not listening to that instinct. I need to get on with my stuff. That instinct within you, that state that feels like it needs to be there to protect you, is going to go, oh, you're not hearing me. I'm just going to shout louder and louder and louder until you hear me. But if you
Hmm.
just immediately go, oh, I hear you, like let's compassionately explore this, I'm going to be curious instead of resistant, you usually come to a bit more clarity where you go, oh, I don't actually think I need to feel that way anymore. I don't think I need to handle this in that way. And you've developed a trust with that fearful part of you that's, it's a habit. It's not going to go immediately. But if you develop a trusting relationship with that habit, next time it comes up, it has that kind of trust in you to go, no, actually, this is different now. I don't
Yeah.
need to have this instinct towards the
Yes.
situation.
Wow, that's so awesome. Okay. How do we help our kids so they're more body aware? What do we do?
Yeah. Well, we've been speaking so much, haven't we, about like that slowing down feeling. And I think with kids, they're raised to be quick. Like, they put their hand up in school and it's like the first person who puts their hand up, oh, well done. Like, things like immediately. And it's this just knowing immediately, having this intellect always. And it's very heady, especially in schools. So just giving a space for your child to be able to slow down. If you're asking how they feel, give them more space to answer. They don't need a specific answer immediately. Just be like, well, just encourage them to do what you're doing for yourself. And I think even just going into your own body awareness, you're leading by example and you're giving that sense of safety, which allows someone to blossom because they're not on
Wow,
edge.
it's
But
true.
then for them, they'll start to be like, oh, okay, you're really connected to yourself. I'm noticing your behaviors. I'm going to adopt that culture within myself. And the way you
Yeah,
can encourage that further is that slowing down. That how are you feeling? And take your time. Like I understand, like it takes time to really connect to how you're feeling. Just something small as that. Like, oh, I don't need
yeah.
to immediately give you an answer. I don't immediately to like mind it. I can really feel into myself.
And
Um,
and if our kids are not able to express, like I think sometimes with kids, they don't. know what they're feeling. They just know they're feeling something.
Yeah.
Then you could, I
Yeah.
think it's okay to give them the words. Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling angry about that? Like, I think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
okay to ask them that. But I also agree with you. You have to give them time,
Yeah.
like to process and to
Mm.
respond, right?
Mm.
I always say to parents, like, do not force. We don't
Mm.
force our kids to talk. We
No.
allow them to talk when they're ready. We invite them to talk
Yeah.
when they're ready, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's creating safety, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Um, I would like to just do, can I just do a recap before you tell us all about your where you are and how people can find you and all that stuff, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Of
All
course.
right. So, okay. So Emily went through like, Terrence, this is a recap for you. So Emily went through what's happening in the body with our vagus nerve and how we feel it in our body first before like it's in our head. And that there's 5 stages of sensation that involve the physical sensation, the thoughts, the emotions, etc. And that we have like 3 views, right? We have the world view. So what we're taking in from the world is like so important. I was just going to say, like, I actually don't watch the news because I find that it affects me so badly,
Yeah.
the negativity of it. And I don't want that in my life. So I've chosen not to. Um,
Mm.
and that's one of the reasons because I actually feel things really deeply. It's really hard for
Mm.
me to function if I know bad things are happening. Okay, so
Mm.
worldview, and then there's sorry, the immediate environment. So our immediate environment, right? Like where we live, our homes, our work, um,
Mm.
that we interact with it every day. And then there's the internal environment. So like what's happening internally with ourselves. Um, Now we need to give ourselves a compassionate space, slow things down so that we can feel our feelings and kind of identify like what are we feeling, and then to give ourselves permission to feel those things. We identify the root feeling,
Mm.
um, and give ourselves compassion for that, and then we be curious instead of resistant.
Mm.
Okay, and we help our children be body aware when we are body aware, because then we can teach
Mm.
that to our kids, asking them
Mm.
how they feel and giving them time to respond. Did I sum it up well?
You did that really, really well. It was so satisfying to hear. Yeah, that was perfect.
That was such great information. Thank you so much, Emily Rose.
It
Okay,
was so lovely
I would
talking.
like you to share with our parents where, how they can reach you, how they can work with you, get support with their body awareness.
Yeah.
Where do they find you?
Okay, so the best place to find me is either LinkedIn or my website, so www.emilyrosecoach.com, and just give me a message and we can have a very relaxed connection call and talk about what you're wanting to focus on. When I was thinking about how parents would benefit most from my work, I really think my 3-month program is incredible for that because it's guided workshops that's like 1 a week for 12 weeks, and it allows you to delve a bit more into your nervous system state so you can see how your stress regulates, how your emotion regulates. And we do also explore those inner core beliefs, like you said, about maybe parental conditioning that is fueling those states to feel necessary in those moments. So you're really developing that relationship with yourself and learning how to bring it into your home. So I
That
can imagine that would be really helpful. But yeah,
sounds
my
amazing.
website and
Okay,
LinkedIn.
so yeah, I will put your links on the podcast notes, and then we'll air this on the show as well. So thank you so much, Emily. Really appreciate you and all your wisdom and knowledge. And thank you so much for sharing it with us. All
And
right.
thank you for holding the space. It's been
Oh,
really lovely.
you're very welcome. Okay. I love you, parents. Thank you so much for joining today. Hope it was helpful. I know I learned a lot, and I will see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you, parents, for joining the show today. I hope it was valuable and that you have some useful tools to use with your children. If this show blessed you or changed you in any way, I would appreciate a review on my podcast, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, or perhaps you could even recommend our Masterful Parenting to your family and friends. Thank you so much, parents.